Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's episode of We're Dealing, where life and faith get messy. That means we're dealing, we're not pretending. We're real people dealing with real life issues, but bringing real hope. My name is Dawn Marie. I'm here with my friend Ellie today, and my heart is that you would experience healing and freedom, that you would learn to love yourself the way that God loves you, that you would see yourself the way that He sees you, and you would experience His faithfulness, not just in the good times, but also in the bad times. My heart is that you will know how truly amazing you are, that you can do hard things, you can overcome hard things, and that abundant life is truly possible. So today's topic is one that I think you're going to really enjoy, and that is seeing God in the chaos of everyday life. What do we do when life feels completely and totally out of control? How do we see God, and how do we find joy in those moments? And so I'm going to just open up the floor because I am just super excited to have my friend Ellie here, and we were talking about how our week was, and we just decided that we were going to go here because she has had some real chaos this week. So, Ellie, say hello to our viewers.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Donnie.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here. It has been quite the week, as you said. So,
Tell us about it, Ellie.
I'm gonna. So, Monday night, my children and I are in a deep sleep, 11:30 at night. All is well. And the fire alarm goes off in our apartment complex. And I don't know if anybody's ever had a fire alarm go off, but it is one of the most loud, relentless noises that you will probably ever hear. And my children came out running. Mom, what's going on? What's going on? And I said, open up the door. Let's see if there's a fire. And to be honest with you, when I said it, in my mind, there was no fire. I really believed it was a malfunction of the system and that maintenance was going to come, shut it off, and life was going to just go right back to...
And what time was this?
It was 11:30 at night, and I was probably in my second REM sleep.
Okay.
At that point.
Okay.
So that real hard sleep.
Yeah.
When my son opened the door, he said, Mom, there's a fire. And I thought to myself, what? And I jumped up and put on whatever I could. It was my robe with my red hearts on it, just in time for Valentine's Day, apparently.
Yeah.
And before you knew it, we were out in the hallway, in the front steps of the complex. And it was freezing, snow and ice, one of the coldest nights. Of course, it couldn't be it couldn't be a nice warm summer evening.
Right.
No. We spent probably about 45 minutes to an hour in our car. People were coming out of their apartments, broke my heart. I saw babies in blankets. And it was started by an elder gentleman that lived right next door to our unit. And he had a grease fire. And when he opened his door, you could actually see the water coming out of his apartment. The sprinklers must have gone off, obviously.
Now, when you say elder gentleman, how old would you say he was?
Oh, could tell you he was probably, if not in his late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
And he had a robe on, and he had a towel on top of his head. And he was either in shock or he didn't, he had some type of dementia, didn't know you could tell he did not know what was happening. And the fire department came, multiple units. And before you asked, Dawn, no, they were not the ones from the calendar that you do see.
I was wondering if they were cute and they came in with their suspenders.
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yeah.
The answer to that would be NO. So we finally got the clearance to go back into our unit.
I'm sorry, I can't get out of my head the fire department coming in their suspenders.
No. I think you may need to get that out of your head because that's not what it looks like.
You didn't find your husband that night?
No, I did not.
Okay.
And we were sitting in the car, the kids and I, and, my children are so different. One literally had his iPhone on and he was watching the basketball game on his iPhone, and you could tell that he didn't have a care in the world. And then the older one, who's so much more, I don't know, worrisome. He's worries. He was in the back seat and
Sensitive.
yeah, and he had this look on his face and it was just kept saying, Mom, you think our stuff is okay? Mom, you think our stuff is okay? And I got to pause there for a moment because I know the moms out there are going to get what I'm about to say. And Donna, you know exactly what I'm about to say. You don't know the answer to that question. But as a mom, the first thing you want to do is soothe. I'm sure everything is going to be okay. We're going to be fine. Everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to be okay. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what we're going to go into.
Well, we were just talking about this, the average person doesn't want to experience pain, but as a mom, you want to shield your kids from ever going through any kind of loss or pain
Exactly.
or any of those things, even though sometimes that is what builds our character. And those are the moments that God uses to strengthen them, to prepare them for what is in their future, right?
Yep.
But we don't
We want to kiss the boo-boo.
Yes.
We want to kiss the boo-boo.
Right.
So after we got the clearance to go back in, the non-hunky fireman had
I'm
my...
so disappointed.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for you, Dawn. I really am. Despite all this, I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah.
He said we can go in. We opened the front door, and there was probably about 2 inches of water in my unit. And my first thought was my son. I knew he was behind me, and I knew that whatever he was worried about, I'm literally looking at it right now. So the firemen were helping us try to get the water out. They used leaf blowers and wet brooms, and my furniture automatically went up on stilts. My couch was on 3 cans of tuna fish and 2 cans of artichokes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now let's just put this in context. You just moved a couple months ago.
That's correct.
So you just moved in, you got your house all in
Just the
order,
way I
everything's
like it.
good. God's good. Everything's
Beautiful.
great. Yeah.
Close to everything. This is where I wanted to be. My children love it here. Great.
Everything's good. Life is good.
And
And then the chaos hits.
and then the chaos hits.
Yep.
And then the chaos hits. And the chaos comes at such an ungodly hour as well. So once the firemen did whatever they could do, we used every towel, sheet, pillowcase, towel, blanket that we had, and our apartment was just in ruins. I managed to get the furniture up on stilts. Whatever we couldn't get up on stilts, we were actually had it in the hallway. And we probably finished at about 1:30 in the morning, the boys and I. And my son said, "Why us, Mom? Why us?"
Hmm.
And if I have to be honest, I couldn't give him an answer at that moment because I felt exactly the same way. I didn't have any godly, mommy words of assurance at that moment because I was tired, I was cold, I was in shock myself. I didn't have the answer to that question, Dawnie.
Well, it's also this frustration. It's like you feel like, why do we keep going through? Why do these bad
Right.
things keep happening, right?
Yeah.
Even though, as you're going to continue in the story, you saw God in the chaos of the
Yeah.
situation. But yeah, it's like we want our lives to be perfect or at least close to it. And when things happen, and I think we were talking about this just before we got on here, but sometimes we think, oh, well, God allowed this to happen. And I mean, in a sense, he did because he's sovereign, but also like, it was just really the old man's stupidity that he started a grease fire. right? Sometimes it's not this big spiritual thing that happens. It's just consequences of something. It's like when you ride down the street and you run over a nail and then you're like, the devil put the nail in the road. Well, the devil didn't put the nail in the road. It's just, this is part of life, right? And the things that we go through.
And
But that's where that verse comes into play, that God works all things together for good. It's not that he caused it or allowed it. It's just that was the consequences of that old man's stupidity, right? I hate to say it that way, but truthfully. And I think that's something that we probably have to like realize in life, that sometimes we have to reap the consequences for somebody else's stupid choices, right?
And that's exactly what my son said that night as he was on his hands and knees and we were all cleaning up the water. He said, Mom, we go out of our way to keep a beautiful home. We have everything just so. And somebody else's actions made a disaster in our home.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I could truly muster at that point was, son, it could have been so much worse. That much I knew. But I'm going to be honest with you, it was a half-hearted stock answer. That's the truth. When you're tired and you're exhausted and you and you have to get up for work the next day and you have to be the leader and you don't always have the strength to be the cheerleader too.
Well, you're also just trying to spin it in a positive way for your kids, but you're not actually feeling that.
You're not feeling the rah-rah.
Correct. Like inside, you're thinking the same thing he is.
Even worse.
Right.
Even worse.
Right. But you have to put up a good face to your kids.
And that's exhausting on top of going through the chaos on top of it.
Yes.
So he got a half-hearted stock answer at that moment.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the days, because
So we make it to bed at 1:30 in the morning, get up for work the next morning.
Did you work the next day?
I worked the whole week.
Oh, Lord. Now you work from home.
Yes.
So now you're at home in the midst of the chaos.
All the chaos.
Yeah.
All the chaos. The next morning, the restoration company comes in, and and I knew the protocol. I've been in a business where I know what the protocol is when you have water damage and fire damage and things like that. So the restoration company comes in, and now they've left machines because they have to soak up the water and dry it, and they're testing for mold. And those machines, there was probably 6 of those machines on the highest volume, and they have to stay on day and night to soak up the moisture. So to add to the circus of the furniture all being displaced and out of the way, and you can barely get out of our bedrooms, now come the loud machines. My kitchen is displaced because they've pulled the dishwasher rather, and the bottom drawer of the stove out. Every room except our bedrooms and the bathrooms were inoperable. Oh, and I forgot to tell you the best part. Because it was so cold, the pipes froze and we had no water all night on top of it.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So when my son was saying, why me? This is what I wanted to say to him. Good question.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of the verse in Habakkuk 1:2 where it says, how long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? And I think sometimes in those moments we're like, okay, God, where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Right. Where are you?
Mm-hmm.
You see, you know.
Mm-hmm. You see all the things that I've been through, and you see that life is good now. Like, why did you allow this to happen, right?
And if I could be more honest with you, Dawn, sometimes as a Christian, you think you're doing all the right things, right? Dawn, you and I shared an experience where I came to volunteer at the warming shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving back. I'm going to Bible studies. I go to church faithfully. I serve at my church. So to even put more truth to this, God, you don't see all that?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see all that, God?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it always feel like the wicked go through swimmingly in this world?
Well, what was interesting was I sent you that text this morning with the verse that talks about the rain falls on the just and the unjust. And I actually had no idea
That's
what you had.
correct.
You didn't tell me anything until we got together today. I had no idea what your week had been through.
That's right.
But it is the truth. Like, we think that somehow that we're exempt from
right.
life's issues and life's trials. And, oh, what do you mean, God? I go to church, I'm going to Bible study, I volunteer, I'm
right.
doing all the right things. And how did you let this
Can
happen?
you give a Christian a break, God?
Right.
That's what we all want to say.
Right. But it also says in Psalm 34:19, and I want to just make sure that I put these scriptures in here so that people, can stand on the truth, because these are the moments when we need to go back to the truth, because our emotions, and I talked about this in my last podcast, is our emotions, we have to be the boss of our emotions. But the righteous person may have troubles, but the Lord delivers them from them all, right? And so God brought you through this situation, but in the moment, you have to go back to some kind of truth, because otherwise you're going to lose your sugar, right? And you're going to have your kids stressed out, and you're going to lose your joy, and it's just not going to go well.
Yeah. So for the last 4 days, we were living with high volume machines and basically confined to my bedroom, because that's the furthest room to the back where you could close the door and not hear that much noise. You know what happened, Donda? First and foremost, and you may not believe this, but it's the truth, at 1:30 in the morning, after we were tired, stunned, gone through it all, we were stunned. We wouldn't even have time to process what was happening. We stood in the hallway, and the three of us looked at each other, and I don't know what came over us, maybe complete and utter exhaustion. We actually started laughing. And my boys started asking me questions about a time when this kind of situation felt familiar. And I started to tell them about a story about when they were young and the pipes burst in the lower half of our house, and how we were under construction for so long because there were so many rooms that needed to be replaced, and how I had to make a makeshift playroom for them in our garage. And my younger one begins to tell me, Mom, that was the greatest playroom of all. We had everything we needed in there. It was the coolest playroom ever. That was when I started to see God in the chaos. At 1:30 in the morning. And we went to bed on a much better note than the way we were woken up. And here's the other reason why I saw God and I could have felt it. When you're confined to that one room, I mean, my children and I had bed picnics. We were watching old shows that had bound us together, and it felt very eerily familiar as to what we used to do. And we needed that. And I loved every moment of it. So while behind that door, there was destruction, there was chaos, there was things that were broken that needed to be in repair, our home was truly in a complete state of disarray. In that little bedroom, there was 3 people together, eating, and we were actually laughing. And you know what? Right now, as I sit here and talk to you, my house is put back just the way it was. All the machines are gone. We had that time together. And anybody that has older children living with them knows, with their schedules and your schedules, you literally are ships. 2 ships or 3 ships passing in the night, and there's not the sitting down of the dinner table anymore and having dinner because everybody's going their own way. They have their own schedules. They have their own friends, their own lives. So that experience that we've had for the last 3 days was something we have not had in a very, very long time.
So I'm going to ask you a question. So based on some of the things that I know about your life, this is not the first chaotic thing that you've experienced, right?
No.
Okay, so what is different this time as opposed to when you didn't know God and when you weren't walking with God? Because I think that a lot of times, chaos looks like loss and trauma and betrayal and illness and relapse from addictions and broken relationships and faith doesn't erase the chaos.
No, it doesn't.
Right. Even faithful people experience storms in our lives. And so it doesn't mean that God's left us, right? Often, and as you explained, chaos is where God actually shows up and he draws closest to us. And so what I want to know is how this time was different than maybe when you had experienced a chaotic event in your life and you didn't know God. Because I think for a lot of times when we're not walking with God or we don't have that relationship, trauma and stress, chaotic situations, they narrow our vision. They put our nervous system into survival mode, which is probably
fight or flight.
Yeah, what you've experienced many times in your life. It makes it harder to feel God's presence, right? Because all we're thinking about is this situation. We're not looking for God in the chaos. So tell me about that, because that's what I think, if we want to talk about when life and faith get messy, right? Where's your faith? When you're walking through things in your life, what was different this time than maybe a time when something bad happened, chaotic happened, and you didn't know God? You were still walking in darkness, so to speak.
Well, I think when you walk in darkness and you go through things, I can only speak from my experiences, but it feels like a punishment, and it feels like, well, I'm a bad person because I don't do the right thing, so I deserve whatever I get. And it's my job to get out of this and figure this out, and there's a reason why this is happening, and God is not going to come and rescue me. This is probably God's wrath and God's punishment.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. So there's no God in it besides God is mad and God is angry. Listen, I was raised Catholic. And for all you Catholics out there or ex-Catholics, you know exactly where I'm coming from. The wrath of God, the punishment of God. So when you don't have a relationship with the Lord, there's no God in it. But if there is God in it, God must be mad. God is wrathful. God is punishing me. That's the extent of God in the chaos. The difference when you do have God is even in the chaos, you are aware that God is in the details. And when those God moments happen, even in the chaos, you know it's God. I knew God was protecting us that night. You know how much worse all of that could have been?
Sure.
I knew from the big picture of it, God was protecting us. Were we inconvenienced? Yes, we were. Was God protecting us? Yes, he was. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't see God in that chaos until the boys and I were actually in the hallway laughing. And the laughter that came for the boys, and you moms all know this, that is the relief you need.
Well, it just verses are just popping in my head. You know, it says, I'm not sure where, I don't know the address,
That's
but
okay.
that laughter is good medicine for the soul.
And boy, was it.
And God knew that you needed that. It also says that the joy of the Lord is our strength. You needed strength for what was to come the next few days.
That's
and
right.
So God filled you with joy, you know. And I heard this pastor say one time, I'm going to see if I can get it right, but he said, if you don't have joy, you don't have strength. If you don't have strength, you're weak. If you're weak, the devil's coming after you. You can't defeat him if you're weak, right? So you need that joy because you know that no matter what's to come, God's there. And so I love that you started laughing in the hallway because that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
The joy of the Lord is our strength, right?
Yeah. And as a mom, starting out the night with, why us? And then ending up laughing together and having those bed picnics together. And then having that joy together. And then having both of them saying to me at the end of this, because they knew we went through it. I mean, we went through it. Mom, it could have been so much worse. We got through this and we got through it together. And listen, I spoke to my boys about the Lord in this. And you know, every opportunity is not just for me to recognize God in the details, but it's also for me to talk to my children about that as well.
Right.
And the protection that God gave us and how much worse it could have been and how grateful we are. And you know what? When we put our house back together, and it was just yesterday, by the way, that we put our house back together, I looked at my boys and I said, makes you appreciate everything you have, right? It makes you be more grateful for the things that you take for granted. And even in that, God is in the details.
Yeah. Well, I think in those moments, it's like instead of saying, God, why is this happening to me? We're just asking ourselves, God, where are you in this?
Yeah.
Right? What are you trying to teach us?
Yeah.
What good is going to come out of this? And even for your boys, I mean, you know, for young men, and they're young men, I'm sure it's frustrating and you're worried about your stuff and, you know, but at the same time, you know, your boys are going to go out into the world and they're going to experience all kinds of things and they need to be prepared, you know, for what trials
and tribulations are going to befall you.
Yes.
And you know, I tell you, it was a teachable moment. Guess what I taught my boys to do when they have a grease fire?
Go ahead. Don't
Not
use
what
water.
he did.
Yeah.
What he did, do the opposite of. And, you know, and listen, everything is a teachable moment. Donnie, if that had never happened and my boys never experienced that, what would have happened if one day they were living in an apartment complex and they didn't know what to do if they had a fire? They could have been the person that made it worse. So everything is teachable moments.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to go through the chaos to have those teachable moments.
Yeah, you do. I mean, how many things have you been through in your life where in the moments you're like, okay, this is...
Yeah.
Right.
Listen, wisdom comes from pain.
Right.
So does strength.
Right. Frustration and crying out to God, where are you? And sometimes not even crying out to God because you don't even think God's there even listening, right?
Or even worse, you think God is causing it.
Correct. So but coming to a place where you actually realize, and I've said this so many times, but in James, it talks about, and I hated this verse for so many years because I could never understand when it said, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you go through testings and trials of many kinds," because it's building your faith and building perseverance, and you'll be complete. Right. You'll be complete, lacking in nothing. And I could never understand. I thought, is this crazy?
Right.
And this is where, as you walk out life, it's so important to go back to the truth of the word, because years later, now I understand what that means. In the moment, I didn't. But now I can look back and I can say, okay, God, I know something good is coming. I know you're teaching me something. I know something good's going to come out of this. I know that I'll be complete and lacking in nothing. But in the moments, right.
I'm not considering it pure joy.
Correct.
Dawn, on that note, and that's so very true, I knew in the chaos, when you have a relationship with God and you're rooted in Christ, even if you're looking at it as a spiritual attack, you know that if it's not good, God's not done.
Yeah.
You may not recognize it in that moment, but our faith teaches us you meant it for evil, but God will always mean it for good. So as we were on our hands and knees and we were cleaning and water just was coming and my kids looked distraught and confused and exhausted, in my soul, I knew good was going to come out of it. What that was going to look like, could I see it? No, I couldn't. I couldn't see it. It felt like it was chaos, and it felt like, why? And I'm grateful for the moments of laughter, and I'm grateful for the moments of closeness that I had with my children in this. I'm grateful for the teamwork that we pulled together during, after. And I'm grateful that my boys are going to have their Super Bowl party on Sunday, and they're going to have all their friends over.
Yeah, I love that.
And for them, that was the silver lining in it.
Mm-hmm. I read a quote and it said, "We often look for God in the miracles, but sometimes God is in the middle of the mess, holding us together while we're falling apart."
Not the truth.
Yes, it really, really is. So before we wrap up today, I just want to speak to the part of you that still feels overwhelmed. If your world feels loud, if your thoughts feel scattered, if your heart feels tired from carrying too much for too long, I want you to know that God sees you. He's not standing at a distance waiting for you to get it all together. He is near to the brokenhearted, and he draws close to those who feel weary, confused, and worn down. You might not see the full picture right now. You might not understand why things have unfolded the way they have. And honestly, sometimes we don't get the answers on this side of heaven. But we do get God's presence. We get a God who walks with us through the valley, who sits with us in the mess, who strengthens us when we don't feel strong enough to take another step. If all you can do today is breathe and say, "God, help," that is enough. If all you can do is listen to this podcast and still feel numb, exhausted, or uncertain, that's okay too. Faith isn't always loud, and it's not always confident. Sometimes faith looks like just staying. Sometimes faith looks like not giving up. Sometimes faith looks like choosing to come back to God again and again, even when you don't feel him the way you want to. I've been there. I believe God is doing something in you, even in this season that feels confusing or chaotic. I believe that he is shaping your heart, deepening your roots and building a kind of faith that isn't based on everything going right, but on knowing that He is still good even when life is hard. So as you go back into your day, I want you to take this truth with you. You are not alone in the chaos. God is with you. He is for you, and He is not finished with your story. The chapter that you're in right now is not the whole book. So if this episode spoke to you, would you take a moment to like and subscribe to Word Dealing so you don't miss future conversations just like this one? And if you know someone who's walking through a chaotic season, I'm sure you do, share this episode with them, because you never know how God might use a simple conversation to bring comfort and hope to someone who really needs it. So thanks for showing up here. Thank you for being willing to deal with the hard stuff instead of pretending that everything is fine. This is a safe place, an honest place, and we are dealing together. I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here, Ellie. You are deeply loved, and no matter how chaotic life feels right now, God is still present, still faithful, and He's still writing something beautiful with your story. We'll see you next time on Word Dealing. Thanks so much.